I got home early from work 3 days ago to surprise my wife, Emily, for our anniversary with a gift I'd been saving for. It wasn't anything extravagant, just a bracelet she'd been eyeing in a shop window whenever we passed by. She's always so practical, insisting we save money rather than splurge on her, but I wanted to do something special this time. I parked a block away to keep my arrival a secret, crept into the house quietly, and planned to surprise her with a romantic afternoon before our dinner plans. Looking back, I feel foolish for being so excited. The house was silent when I stepped inside, and I assumed Emily might be napping since she'd been pulling extra shifts at the clinic and coming home drained lately. I tiptoed through the living room, not wanting to wake her. But as I neared the staircase, I heard noises from upstairs. At first, I thought it might be the radio or a show she was listening to. But as I got closer, my heart sank because those sounds were unmistakable. My mind refused to accept it, trying to convince me it was something else entirely. I nudged the bedroom door open just enough to peek inside, and there was my father, 58 years old, with my 29-year-old wife, both naked in our bed. They were tangled together, completely unaware of me, and I stood there paralyzed, for what felt like an eternity but was probably only seconds. My brain finally registered the betrayal, and I slammed the door open, shouting, "What the hell is this?" They jolted apart, startled, and Emily yanked the sheets to cover herself. My dad just sat there, exposed, looking more irritated than remorseful, like I'd interrupted something trivial. Emily started sobbing, stammering that it wasn't what it seemed, which was absurd because there's no mistaking what I saw, my wife and my father together. I told her to be quiet and get out of my house immediately. My dad casually got up and started dressing, and when I demanded to know how long this had been going on, he shrugged and said it didn't matter now that I'd found out. That nonchalance made my blood boil, and I nearly hit him. But instead, I ordered him to leave and never come back. Emily kept trying to explain, apologizing and calling it a mistake, but I wasn't hearing it. There's no excuse for this kind of betrayal. I gave her 1 hour to pack her things or I'd call the police. She begged to know where she'd go, and I told her that wasn't my concern anymore. She should have thought of that before. She cried harder, but I didn't care. My dad left without another word, and I focused on making sure Emily took all her belongings so I wouldn't have to deal with her again. She packed 2 bags, still trying to talk to me about counseling or fixing things, but I shut her down, saying there was no fixing this. After she left, I sat in the living room staring blankly for hours, unable to process that my marriage and my relationship with my dad were both gone. It felt like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. The next day, I called in sick and spent hours researching divorce attorneys. I found one who could meet me that afternoon, and after explaining everything, he said it was a straightforward case since I'd witnessed the infidelity myself. Now I'm just waiting for the papers to be prepared so I can serve them to Emily and move on. But everyone, friends, co-workers, keeps telling me to slow down, to consider working things out, but they don't get it. There's nothing left to salvage. My mom called yesterday crying, asking what happened because my dad gave her some vague story about us arguing. She wants me to make up with him, but I can't tell her the truth. It would crush her, especially with her health issues. I don't want to add that burden to her life. Emily's been texting and leaving voicemails, pleading for a chance to talk, saying she loves me and wants to fix things. I blocked her number today because I can't stand hearing her voice or her excuses anymore. I'm sharing this because I need to know I'm not insane for wanting a divorce and cutting them both out of my life. Everyone seems to think I should forgive them, but I can't, and I won't. Update 1. This has been the worst week of my life, and it just keeps spiraling. I'm barely holding it together, and I'm worried I might snap and do something I'll regret. Yesterday, I went to my lawyer's office to sign the divorce papers, and he told me Emily had been calling his office, trying to arrange a meeting to talk things over. I told him no way. I just want the papers served and this over with. When I got home, I saw a car in my driveway, and my dad was sitting on my front steps waiting. I wanted to turn around, but it's my house, and he's the one who should be ashamed to show his face. He stood up, acting like nothing was wrong, and asked if we could talk. I told him there was nothing to discuss and threatened to call the police for trespassing if he didn't leave. But he stayed put, saying we needed to clear things up. I asked how I could possibly misunderstand what I saw, and he had the nerve to say it wasn't what I thought. I laughed in disbelief. What else could it be? He claimed Emily had been confiding in him about our marriage, saying she felt neglected, and things just happened. He said they both regretted it and didn't mean for it to escalate. I told him that was nonsense and that even if Emily was unhappy, it didn't justify their betrayal. I said he was supposed to be my father, not my wife's lover. He got defensive, telling me I was overreacting and that these things happen sometimes. He even suggested I should be more understanding because Emily loves me and made a mistake and our marriage didn't have to end. I was floored by his audacity. Then he said something that pushed me over the edge, something about how if I'd been a better husband, Emily wouldn't have looked elsewhere. I lost it, yelling that this was his fault, not mine, and called him a pathetic old man who preyed on my wife. I told him he was no longer my father and that I never wanted to see him again. He tried to calm me down, saying I was too emotional and that families should work through things. But I told him he stopped being family when he slept with Emily, and he'd made his choice. I stormed inside, locked the door, and ignored his knocking until he finally left. This morning, my mom called sobbing, saying my dad was upset and told her we'd had a huge fight, but not why. She begged me to tell her what happened, but I couldn't bring myself to destroy her with the truth, especially given her heart condition. I just said we'd had a disagreement and I needed space. She insisted family comes first and that I should call him, but it's tearing me apart to keep this secret. Emily showed up at my workplace today, ambushing me in the parking lot as I was leaving. I tried to get to my car, but she banged on the window, begging to talk. I cracked it open just to tell her to leave me alone, but she kept apologizing, claiming it only happened twice and was a mistake. She said it started a month ago when she went to my dad for advice about our issues, and things got out of hand. She claimed she tried to end it, but my dad persuaded her for one last meeting, the day I caught them. I told her I didn't care how many times it was. She cheated, and I'm done. She cried, offering counseling or to move away and start over, but I said it was too late and drove off, leaving her in the lot. The divorce papers will be served tomorrow, and my lawyer says it'll be finalized soon since we have no kids or complex assets. I keep replaying moments, wondering how I missed the signs and feeling like an idiot for trusting them. Update 2. This situation keeps getting uglier, and I'm starting to think I'll never escape this chaos. I just want everyone to back off so I can process this and move on. Emily was served the divorce papers yesterday morning, and by noon, she was bombarding me with calls and texts from different numbers since I'd blocked her main one. I had to turn my phone off for some peace. When I turned it back on, I had 17 missed calls and dozens of messages, all from her pleading for another chance, saying she's getting help and moving to her sister's hometown. She promised to stop contacting me if that's what I wanted, but hoped I'd reconsider. I don't care what she does as long as she signs the papers and leaves me alone. I texted one of her numbers saying I want the divorce finalized quickly, then blocked them all. The bigger issue now is my mom. She showed up at my house last night unannounced, looking like she'd been crying and hadn't slept. I knew something was wrong, but I wasn't ready for what she said. She told me my dad had been acting off for weeks, and after our fight, he'd been drinking heavily and staying up all night. She was worried something serious was going on. She pressed me again about what happened, saying she could tell I was hiding something and wouldn't leave until I told her the truth. I tried to dodge it, but she wouldn't let it go, insisting she could handle it. After minutes of silence, I caved and told her my dad betrayed me in a way I couldn't forgive, involving Emily and our marriage. I said I couldn't share more because it would hurt her too much. She pushed harder, saying not knowing was worse. So I finally told her everything, how I caught them in bed together and how they acted like it wasn't a big deal. Her face crumpled as I spoke, and I hated myself for causing her that pain. She sat quietly for a long time, staring at her hands, then asked if I was certain of what I saw. I confirmed it, and she broke down, saying she'd suspected something but never imagined this. She didn't know how to face my dad, and I offered to let her stay with me, but she refused, saying she needed to confront him and find out how long this had been going on and if there were others. I tried to dissuade her, but she was determined. She left around midnight, and I couldn't sleep, worrying about what was happening at their house and whether I'd done the right thing by telling her. This morning, my dad called, furious, yelling that I'd ruined his marriage by telling my mom. I told him he destroyed everything by sleeping with Emily, and that she deserved to know who he really was. He called me cruel and vindictive, saying my mom kicked him out and was staying in a motel because of me. I hung up while he was still shouting. If my mom kicked him out, good. She deserves better. My lawyer said Emily wants to contest the divorce, but it'll only delay things by a few weeks. I'm exhausted by the constant drama and just want this to end. Final update. I thought I was done updating, but the last 24 hours have been so overwhelming that I need to vent. This mess has spiraled, dragging in more people than I ever imagined. Yesterday evening, my mom called, sounding drained but resolute, asking to come over to discuss what she'd learned from confronting my dad. When she arrived, she looked exhausted, but also stronger than I'd seen her in years. She told me that after kicking my dad out, she'd gone through his phone and computer. She found texts between him and Emily going back 3 months, proving it wasn't just a couple of times but a prolonged affair. They'd been arranging meetups while I was at work, and some messages were so graphic they made her sick. She also found evidence of my dad cheating with at least 2 other women for years, meaning his marriage to her had been a sham for over a decade. I was stunned it was worse than I'd thought and felt awful for her. She said she'd contacted a lawyer to file for divorce and planned to take everything he had. I told her I supported her completely. Then she dropped a bombshell. She'd reached out to Emily and arranged to meet her today to get more details about my dad's affairs. I warned her that Emily couldn't be trusted, but she insisted she needed to hear her out and planned to record the conversation for her divorce case. I offered to go with her, but she wanted to face it alone. I was a wreck while she was gone, checking my phone constantly. She returned around 10:30 p.m., looking shaken but relieved. She said Emily had been surprisingly candid once she realized my mom knew the truth. Emily admitted the affair lasted 3 months, with my dad aggressively pursuing her, convincing her I didn't value her and that our marriage was doomed. Emily even showed my mom screenshots of my dad texting other women, which she'd saved when she suspected he was cheating on her too. The biggest revelation was that my dad had told Emily he planned to leave my mom and start a life with her. My mom said this actually gave her closure, knowing he'd been planning to end their marriage anyway. Emily broke down, admitting she regretted everything and felt manipulated by my dad's lies about my feelings for her. I told my mom I didn't care about Emily's excuses. Loneliness doesn't justify cheating with my father. My mom agreed, but said my dad was the true villain, exploiting Emily's vulnerabilities. The divorce papers will be finalized next week, and Emily has stopped fighting it, agreeing to sign. My dad keeps calling us both, but we're ignoring him. He showed up at my mom's house, but she'd changed the locks and called the police when he wouldn't leave. I'm starting to see a way out of this nightmare and feel a glimmer of hope for a fresh start without these toxic people in my life.